Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's December 30th, 2021. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Matt, I guess we should just try to really stick to our topic today and and focus on recruiting, because right now, obviously, with the team home pretty much for New Year's and the bowl game that was supposed to be played this week canceled. It's really all recruiting and the two-man wrecking crew that's going on right now at the U in head coach Mario Cristobal and his offensive line and right-hand man, Alex Mirabal. And just a flurry of offers have gone out. We have a story today about Mirabal himself has offered 17 kids in the last week or so, and they're all elite offensive linemen around the country, and they all seem very interested. I mean, Mirabal commands a lot of respect, Matt, on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, I mean, what's even more impressive is even without a really bunch of coaches recruiting, you got all these kids that are really, it sounds like are going to come to the elite prospect day January 22nd. Brandon Innis, we talked to him. It sounds like he's going to go. Jaden Wayne told us he's going to go. You got Richard Young, Malik Bryant. I mean, you go down the list, it's like 4 stars and borderline 5 stars or 5 stars. Ruben Bain, Derek LeBlanc, Peyton Kirkland, Samuel Mpemba. I mean, it's like, and that's just to start off with. I mean, it's the amount of talent they're going to get on campus in 3.5 weeks from now is insane. And that's got nothing to do with the offensive line coach. Like, they're going to have the offensive line coach times 7, I mean, it's going to be insane. Like, fans are not even going to know which way to turn their heads when it comes to the offers going out and who's doing what and who's visiting and who's, who might be committing or who might be doing what. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun for fans. Fans are not going to be used to what they're seeing compared to the last, probably I'd say 10 years, honestly. It's a whole different level of recruiting that we're going to be seeing, and that we're already starting to see just from the offensive line coach alone. So, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah,
no doubt. And I did just remember that I do want to make a note for those of you on YouTube and on our message boards at CaneSport.com who have been commenting about the fact that I don't let Matt Shodell speak on this show. He just spoke for 1 minute and 22 seconds, and I spoke for 1 minute and 2 seconds.
You're a mensch. You're a mensch, Gary.
He's already 20 seconds ahead of me. And also, for you guys, I created this streamer across the bottom of the screen. Let it be known that on yesterday's Good Morning CaneSport show that Matt spoke for 11:26 and I spoke for 8:23. I put a stopwatch to it. So that's there for you guys that have been leaving comments everywhere directed towards me that I don't let Matt speak. I want the record to show that I do let Matt speak and that he actually speaks longer than me. But I think I just went by him by about 30 seconds or so.
Don't you want to ask me? Wouldn't you want to ask me if you let me speak? Why? Isn't that a good question to ask me?
No, because I got scientific data. You don't.
Listen. You're 2 standard deviations above the mean in terms of how often you speak on the show. I'm 1.5 standard deviations below the mean in how much I talk on the show.
Okay, whatever the heck that means. All I know is I put a stopwatch to this, and I just wanted to make sure I had.
Listen, more importantly, Alex Mirabal has given out almost as many offers as I caught stone crabs in the last time I went out on the boat. That's impressive. That's the most. Forget who talks more. When you give out more offers than I can get stone crabs, that's just, that's off the chain, man. That's amazing.
No doubt. And just in case some of you don't know who this Alex Mirabal guy is and why we talk about him so much, he's really one of the unique stories and characters in college football. That's Alex Mirabal, okay? He's maybe about 5'5". I mean, you're used to these hulking, big offensive line coaches that, get in the trenches and, rough it up with their guys and that sort of thing. Alex Mirabal, I think, is about 5'5", the nicest guy in the world, but just a really good technician and a really good offensive line coach. And if you ask Mario Cristobal about him, he will tell you that Alex Mirabal is the best offensive line coach in the country. And so that's him there with his Oregon offensive line. And you can get a feel for what he's like. And then when you combine him with Coach Feld, who's going to be the strength coach that we've shown you on former shows and stuff, the total character that he is, the bigs in this program are going to have a unique environment, Matt, around them when they're training, when they're on the practice field. And I think that's a good thing for linemen, because it's not always the most fun position to play. You're in there, crab fighting every single play. You got to do the hardest work in the weight room because you got to be the strongest. Being a lineman is not always, roses. And I think it helps to have these characters around them that lighten the mood at times.
I mean, linemen are always, offensive linemen, I should say, are always sort of an enigma to me because you don't really find them very often in South Florida. Yeah, Navon Donaldson. I mean, there's once every few years, somebody who comes out of here that's pretty good. But it's usually a national recruiting effort for offensive linemen at Miami, whereas, other positions, you can grab a ton of kids just right in your backyard, so to speak. And then a lot of these offensive linemen don't really blossom until later because they're so big and strong. A lot of them wind up, they start out as basketball players. They might even start out as, some of them honestly start off as playing like running back when they're younger, it's because they're these strong, athletic kids. And, you don't see so he's offering all these 4 stars right now. And it's great to get those kids. But the thing with offensive line is it's just so, having a great offensive line coach is so important because it's so hard to evaluate offensive line film. There's so many weird things you have to look for. I remember Art Kehoe told me back in the day, you weren't allowed to work kids out on campus. It's against the rules. What he would have them do was just squat, and he would look at their Achilles to see if they had, I forget the word he used, but basically give or what, I don't know what the word he used. It was some sort of, it helps them gauge the explosion, I guess. If they could squat real low and keep their back up straight, that's what he was looking for. And he would look at their Achilles for some reason. I don't understand why, but I always thought Art Kehoe was a very good offensive line coach, even though some may not. And so they're just these weird little things to me that make offensive line like an enigma. Like I said, I don't know. We'll talk to Alex Mirabal at some point, and I hope I get him one-on-one because I guarantee you there's some weird stuff that when he watches film that he's looking for that you wouldn't even think of, what size shoe the kid wears. I don't know, but there's going to be something that he says, this is what I look at, that you would never think that would be something you would need to look for. And that's just offensive line. And he's I've already had recruits tell me he's the best offensive line coach. One of them said he's, I think he used the word insane. He's an insane offensive line coach, meaning good, I guess. That's apparently a word for good now. I don't know. I don't think he's actually insane. So, yeah, I mean, I'm all in on Mirabal. I think he's going to be great. But again, I can't wait to sort of see what weird things he looks for in these offensive linemen. I don't think, like you said, I don't think it's just big, strong. I think there's a lot more to it. And there's going to be some weird stuff he looks for, I think, that goes into it.
Big and strong is the start, though. I mean, the one thing I've noticed is the size differential in the linemen that they're recruiting now, as opposed to the former, really couple staffs. We've always said, man, we've looked at the offensive line and said, man, they look small. They're not like these are big dudes that they're starting to recruit. They clearly want to build this like a SEC offensive line. And,
it's not, listen, it's honestly, it's not about big at all to me. We've seen big linemen here that are just awful. It's athletic.
Well, they're looking for both. Obviously.
You can't have small athletic linemen, but you can't have big non-athletic linemen. It's not about big. Honestly, I think the first key is athletic. You saw Zion Nelson come in. What was he, 220, 230 when he got here? And but they saw that he was athletic and that he was going to put muscle and weight on. And he's worked out fine. He's not, he's not a first rounder like some people thought he'd be, but he's
not
really
American. Good. He's not, he's definitely not a first rounder.
Right. My point is the offensive line, again, the enigma part, you have to project them. If you see some big galunky 330-pound, 6'4" offensive lineman, it doesn't mean he's going to be good. You got to be quick. You got to have bend. You got to, there's a bunch of stuff that goes into it. And sometimes getting the 6'4", 220-pound offensive lineman who's going to be a 6'6", 320-pound lineman And he's already got that, he can dunk and he can play point guard, on his basketball team. Like, that's what I'm looking for, man. That frame where you can pack on 80 pounds real fast, but he's playing point guard or shooting guard. He can do any of that stuff and dribble the ball. Like, if you can dribble a basketball with your eyes looking ahead and you can move around the basketball court and you have a frame to put on and be a 300-pounder, like, to me, that's my offensive lineman. That's the guy I want. I don't know if Alex Mirabal agrees with me. I'm not an offensive line coach, but, like, I'm all in on those guys. I'm not all in on the slow, big guys who are these just power punchers for the 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense. I'm not that. I like the pulling guys, the moving guys, the athletic guys. That's for me, man. Long arms, lean bodies.
And I'm not going to dispute what you're saying. But I think I'm going to defer to Mirabal and Cristobal on choosing offensive linemen that they want in the program. And I've noticed that these kids are bigger than what has been being recruited here for many years. So whether they're more athletic or not, until we see them on the field, who the hell knows? But they're definitely bigger human beings. And it's very obvious that is an agenda that Cristobal and Mirabal have in pursuing their offensive lineman of the future here at Miami. So, we'll leave it at that. Another really good story today is about 5-star wide receiver in the 2023 class, Brandon Innis. He's back to get
Never heard of him. Who's that?
Never heard of him?
Who's Brandon Innis?
He's just for those of you that are like Matt and don't remember who Brandon Innis is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, Brandon is a 5-star wide receiver in the 2023 class from American Heritage, been recruited by everybody, committed early to Oklahoma, now has decommitted from Oklahoma and opened up his recruitment. Alabama is very much in that one. You're going to have to watch Alabama. Miami won its last shootout with Alabama for a wide receiver. And I'm sure if you talk to Mario Cristobal, he would tell you he intends to win this one as well. Mario has picked up the full court press himself on recruiting Innis while he waits for his receivers coach, Brian McClendon, to get here from Oregon. And Innis told us that he's basically speaking to Cristobal every day. So we have an update on that one here today. And Matt, just to ask you real quick, do you get the impression from Innis that Miami will get legitimate consideration now in his recruitment?
Tell you what, if you take that scroll off the bottom, I'll talk a little bit about Innis. I'll tell you a little story about him. How about that? Make a deal.
You think the point has gotten through? All right. For one last time, those of you who have been leaving comments on YouTube and our message boards on CaneSport.com, I just wanted to let the record show that on yesterday's Good Morning CaneSport show, Matt spoke for 11 minutes and 26 seconds. I only spoke for 8:23. So you guys that are posting, Gary, let Matt speak. I'm letting Matt speak. And I guarantee you that he's gotten more talking time on this show as well. But he doesn't want to talk again unless I take that off the screen. So I'm going to take it off the screen because I do want to hear your opinion, Matt, on whether Brandon Innis will seriously consider Miami.
All right. Well, first of all, just to be clear, I had a 3-minute advantage yesterday morning, but I counted it and you actually had 433 more words than I did, even though you had 3 less minutes. So I don't know why.
I speak faster. Is that what you're saying?
All right. So Brandon Innis, this is why I like Brandon Innis. Forget Brandon Innis, the player. I mean, look, Gary and I noticed him 2 years ago at one of the camps we were at. We're like, this kid is a stud. He was like running routes like you see in the NFL, smooth, in and out of his just hips, like just everything that you could possibly want. Speed, smooth, quick, fast, perfect. But this is why I like Brandon Innis. Forget all that stuff. So, you guys don't know sort of what goes on behind the scenes with recruiting and how we do things, but a guy like Brandon Innis, he's getting hounded by, he says he talks to 10 or 15 coaches a week. It's probably honestly more than that. They want his time constantly. They're texting him way more than they're talking to him, obviously. So it's like constant. He's got school going on. He's got his family. He's got his friends. He's a high school kid. He's having fun. So he's got a million things going on in his life. And, I called him and he didn't answer. So I don't leave messages on phones. I text the kids because apparently that's the way you do things now. So I text him. I say, hey, Brandon, it's Matt, if you feel like doing an interview at some point, let me know, And the next day, he texts me back, and he's like, sure. He says 7:30 p.m. tonight. He says, hit me up. So 7:30 p.m. I call him. There's no answer. I text him. I say, is this still a good time? He doesn't respond. I let it go. The next day at like 11 a.m., he says, sorry, Matt, I got tied up with something. He says, how about now? I call him. We had a great we talked for half an hour. We had a great conversation. Nicest kid in the world, And like, that's, to me, even though it sounds like that doesn't show character, that actually shows character, because this kid has so much going on, but he was responsible enough to realize he'd made a commitment to do an interview. Even, hopefully he wanted to do it. I mean, I feel like we had a good conversation. We had fun talking. But I can't tell you how many hundreds of kids over the last, how long have we been doing this? 20 years, 30 years? I don't know. It's been way too long. You just let it go. Like they say, call me this time. You call them. They don't respond. You text them or whatever. Back in the day, you leave a message on their little voicemail where they have to, voice message at home where they have to push the button to play it back in those days. I don't know. But like he had the wherewithal and the character to reach out to me the next day and acknowledge I got tied up. I screwed up. Give me a call. And, and I totally appreciated that, because a lot of kids just say, they just let it go, because, they're high school kids. They think, oh, forget it. It didn't work out. I'm not going to worry about it. He'll call me some other time, whatever. So, so good for Brandon. And I will tell you some other, like back in the day when, and he's going to let this thing go all the way, pretty late in the process, it sounds like, to make a decision. And like back in the day, kids would literally, I remember parents telling me they would have to literally unplug their phone out of the wall. And this is before, everyone had cell phones, but like these phones are going off nonstop. I guarantee you, Brandon Innis's phone, between my text message, my call at 7:30 that night, we were supposed to talk, and that text message was like, hey, is this still a good time? I guarantee you, he probably had over 100 texts between that text and when he actually reached out to me the next day. And for him to remember, like, hey, I got to talk to Matt. It's nothing about me. It's about him as a person saying, I have a responsibility to things. And this is why this kid's going to succeed in life. And probably on the football field too, because, when you get to college, you have a lot of responsibilities and you're getting pulled a million different directions. And this sort of shows this is the kind of kid who, when he has a commitment, even if he screws something up or he can't make that because of whatever reason, like yesterday we had an interview we were supposed to do, Gary, the two of us together on an Inside the Lines. And he's like, my dad has to have surgery. We got to postpone it. And of course, we're like, okay, But like, just to reach out and communicate, like he has communication skills, no doubt about it. We had a great conversation, and I'm 100% in with that kid wherever he goes. I don't care if he goes back to Oklahoma or goes somewhere else. I'm 100% in. I'm going to root for that kid no matter where he goes.
Yeah, he's
hopefully
a nice
Miami, but wherever it is.
He is. He's a nice kid. No doubt about it. Totally agree. All right, a couple of stories today. There's a defensive back by the name of Brashawn Williams who has gotten a Miami offer, and he will be coming to the Elite Prospect Day in January. So that's something to note. We also are launching a new series today that we're going to, at least for now, unless we come up with
by the way, I get credit for the name. I like the name of this one. I came up with the name.
Well, yeah, I mean, the name is Why at the U, and it's going to be a series of commentaries about why certain things can happen. It actually is a pretty good name. You're right. It is. I give you credit for that, Matt. So our Why at the U series begins today with a look at why Tyler Van Dyke can be a legit Heisman Trophy candidate next season. And so I hope you guys enjoy that. And
by the way, did you know the odds were out on that already, Gary, or did you not know that? I didn't know when I started researching it. You knew that?
Yeah, they are. There's odds on everything in Vegas. And if the Hard Rock can ever get their sports book back, I mean, again, it's like, why would these couple of companies down here in South Florida take this thing to the degree where they had the federal government shut down the Hard Rock Sportsbook? I mean, all of us in South Florida, we have waited our lifetime to have sports betting and a sports book that's easy for us, and we don't have to go offshore and things like that.
Offshore? What about the guy? What about the guy down the street? That's what I do. I got my buddy.
You got your buddy?
My buddy takes bets. What do you need somebody else? What do you need a major corporation taking your money for? Give it to your buddy.
It's so easy. They had the app. You could go on. You could bet during the games. It was so much fun.
But Gary, you're keeping the money in the community when you lose all your money betting on these idiot teams that you pick. That's why you keep it in the community. They're helping the local restaurants. They're spending your money.
Yeah, no, I wasn't betting anything significant, but it was fun. Like, you could sit there in the middle of a game and make a bet and stuff. It was just fun. And these idiots, they shut it down. I hear it's going to come back in January, whatever. Like, people are so greedy. They got to fight over it, whatever. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying. So yeah, our Why at the U series does begin today with a look at whether Tyler Van Dyke can win the Heisman Trophy. We look forward to seeing your comments on that on the message boards at CaneSport.com. So, Matt, that's going to do it for today. I imagine you're off to kill some more crabs.
No, not today. You got to wait 2 to 3 weeks between pulling traps. The crabs don't just hop right in there. They meander. They take their time.
Not to go off on a tangent on this stone crab fishing thing again, but so when you take these crabs out of the trap and you twist off each claw, leaving them with no arms to fend off octopus when you throw them back in the water, how long does it take them to regrow the claws?
I haven't interviewed many crabs and asked them that question. I don't know. All I know is by the next season, as you get later in the season, you start getting more and more crabs in your traps that don't have claws, obviously, because other fishermen have harvested them and they're still going in pots and eating. Right. I will tell you, I have never at the beginning of the season gone out and gotten crabs that have no claws. So I guess they grow back within a season.
During a season.
They must. Either that or the octopus are having a season.
And then how often do you pull your traps?
Every 2 to 3 weeks.
So it takes 2-3 weeks for them to get crabs in them again.
If you pull them after a week, you're not going to have. I mean, you'll have something, but you're not going to have much. You're
not going to have much.
And then we get weird stuff in those pots. We had a shark that I don't even know how to fit in there. Honestly, it wasn't even a small shark, a little nurse shark, but it was the size of the pot. Somehow it curled up in there. We get blowfish all the time. Puffer fish all the time. Those are fun to bounce off the boat back into the water. We get a lot. We get a lot of octopus.
You take puffer fish and you bounce them off the boat back in the water.
I mean, you can just gently.
Come on, man! You're abusing.
No, they like it. They like it. You tickle their stomach. You tickle their stomach. They blow up nice and big, and then they get to bounce. They love it. It's like flying. It's like if you could fly, Gary.
Throw them off the side of the boat before they bounce in to the water.
You gently bounce them off the side of the boat into the bay. It's like flying. Like Gary, if Thor came down from wherever the hell, I don't watch those comics. If he came down and let's use Iron Man. I don't know if Thor really flies. I know he's got the hammer and he goes up, but I don't know if he can control it. Let's say Iron Man says to Gary Ferman, hey, do you want to go for a little ride? And he flies you up in the air and then he bounces you off a trampoline at the end back into your house. You'd be like, that was awesome. So what are you complaining about? Anyway, we also get lobster in there. A lot of lobster wind up in there, believe it or not. A lot. We had one pot that's almost full of lobster once. We took a picture of it.
Do you take them too? Do you
It's not season. No, it's not in season. You can't take the lobster. No.
But if it were in season, you could take the lobster.
If they were big enough, but these are usually pretty small. We had like a random blue crab, like once in a blue moon. We got a lot of spider crab. What are some weird? We get a lot of triggerfish.
Last question. In the 2-3 weeks that you're waiting in between expeditions out at the Biscayne Bay to dismember more crabs, how many crabs will be in your trap when you arrive after 2-3 weeks?
Well, so it varies. I mean, it depends on the area.
What's the range?
Okay, so like the most claws we've ever gotten out of one pot?
Yeah.
We've gotten 15 claws out of one pot once. That was actually this year. 15.
And what's the smallest amount?
So that's like 8 crabs were in there. One had no claw or had a small claw. Right. There's blanks. We call them blanks. There's blanks all the time. Every trip we've had a blank. We've never had a trip where there's not a blank. I mean, that's what's going to how
many of these pods out in the water?
Pots. I can't discuss that because we may have a little more than we're supposed to. So I'm not discussing the number of pots.
Well, why am I not surprised?
There might be like one over. I don't want to risk it. I think
amputates crabs and leaves them without claws.
Listen, I'm pretty sure. I got to check the regulations.
That tickles the bellies of blowfish to get them to blow up like a balloon, so he can throw them off the side of boats. Why am I not surprised that that angler would have more traps in the water than he is supposed to?
I got to double check. We might have one over. I got to look. If we have one over, we will not harvest it. Okay, we only harvest the legal amount. Trust me. That's it. Harvest legal.
That's going to do it for today, everybody. For Good Morning CaneSport. I hope everybody has a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning. God knows what we'll be talking about then, but wow is all I got to say about today. Just wow. Have a great day, everybody.